All right. You can't even hear the music.
I was going to say, I heard, the beginning of it. I was like, this is, I don't know how to feel about this.
You feel like boogieing, don't you?
I need some party drugs immediately. I mean, just in general, but
well, I'm glad that my music inspired your, drug habit.
Yeah, well, I mean, look.
We are the Podcasting Dead. Obviously, from the name, we talk a lot about The Walking Dead, but as we say all the time, we talk and do other things, and we plan to do more as the future rolls on. We've had a few bumps in the road. I won't get too personal, but the last few weeks have been a little rough, but
a lot of change in the air for everyone involved.
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is on both ends. JP, myself, lots going on, but we're ready to rock, and we're going to re-examine the season 9 mid-season finale.
Yes, with fresh eyes. I know you've rewatched. I haven't rewatched, but I have,
recently watched it.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit more clarified on some things.
I almost feel like you want to try to get your podcast in there with as early as you can, so that you can get people to watch it. Because if you do it too late, then obviously you fall in the long line of other reviews and discussions about it. But at the same time, I almost feel like with something that happened that traumatic, I need like a few days to get over it before we discuss it. But so we're going to re-examine the mid-season finale. I'm not necessarily going to retract things that I said, but I'm going to kind of examine my frustration, if that makes any sense. Number one, I will change one thing. When I got home yesterday, I rewatched it, and then when my girlfriend got home later that night, she was like, "I'm going to rewatch that episode." So we rewatched it again. So I've now seen the episode 3 times, and last night sounds like I do nothing but The Walking Dead, and I have so many other things that I do. But last night was a very Walking Dead night in the Lloyd household. So we between when I watched it and she got home, I kind of went back and reread the whole Whisper introduction and stuff just to be familiar with it as we get into it on the show. I'm going to change the score because it was a good episode. I had given it a 3.5. I'm going to give it a 4. I think it definitely deserves a 4 out of 5. I still maintain that the whole Henry stuff I could have done without or less of it.
Yeah, what did I give it? I thought you gave it a 3 and I gave it a 3.5.
That might have been it. I'm going to change my score from 3 to 4.
And I haven't rewatched, but in fact, I'm going to give it a 3 then because I hate Henry even more now than I did yesterday.
So you're going back in score. I'm going up.
Yes, but I did I liked a whole lot about the episode, but yeah, man, Henry can eat a dick. I don't like him.
Yeah, I don't like him. Well, I don't hate him that much. I just I'm not that fond of him yet. Maybe he'll grow on me. I wasn't fond of Carl that much when he first entered the scene.
And that's another thing. I mean, just seeing Henry play out these storylines, they're just rubbing salt in the wound that, we killed off Carl for no reason.
Well, yeah, really, for no reason. So, still the stupidest decision they've made in this show thus far, in my opinion. And that's something I've learned, man. You cannot have your own opinion on the internet. Man, the butt hurt is strong with some people. You don't like something, man. It's rather than just, and I'm not talking about people that disagreed. Some people were very polite and were like, well, I actually disagree. Those are not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that were like, you cunt. How dare you not think that what I think? Like, I thought we could have civilized conversation here. I wasn't happy. I'm not saying that you're an idiot if you liked it. I was saying why I didn't like it. And like I said, some people were really cool about it. Some people were like,
we definitely caught some flack yesterday. Me, just for my ignorance of characters. But I mean, look, I'm watching it at 7 a.m. and I'm sorry, there's like 50 characters to keep up with.
And keep in mind, after JP gets done working like almost a third shift job. So, I mean, the second shift, right? I mean, you get off like at midnight. So
most days.
You get off late.
My whole confusion with, thinking it was the blacksmith's son. It's a bearded white guy. How many bearded white guys have we had on this show? It's bearded white guy number 12, at this point. I'm sorry.
But anyway. I kind of want to re-examine it because some things have come to light as well. Thomas Paine apparently I've been watching The Talking Dead more this season than I normally do because I have absolutely loved this season, and Angela King's done a phenomenal job. It's, in my opinion, could go down as one of the best seasons in Walking Dead history, honestly. And I'm just, again, please don't, kill me in the comment section. It's just my opinion. I've loved this season. But, apparently Thomas Paine, and this, again, I blame Scott Gimple more. So I did, say Angela King let me down, but I guess this wasn't really her fault considering Thomas Paine wanted off the show because of Scott Gimple, because he had done all this martial arts training and all of these things and felt like his character was being underused. So my frustration is not with this particular episode. My frustration is with the underusage of my favorite comic book character.
I wasn't aware of all that. So, yeah, they're like, well, we're going to let you use all of your martial arts training. And then you die. Then you're going to die, yeah.
You know, Jesus, and actually last night I went back and read like 4 volumes of The Walking Dead and just reasserted to myself how much I love Jesus. Like I would almost love to do like a top 5 most badass Jesus moments from the comic, because he's got so many awesome moments that never even kind of made it to the show. And I know you can. You know, I know they want to diverge from the comics a little bit, and I know that they don't want to do everything that they do in the comics, and I'm fine with that. They killed off Sophia. She's still alive and well in the comics. I was cool with that because, man, what a twist. It was, you know, it was done in such a great way that I was like, okay, yeah, I feel you. But
Jesus definitely got the Tyrese treatment.
Yeah, he did.
As, you know, watering down a great comic book character.
Right. And I like Tyrese, but I agree. I mean, if you know, a lot of people will be like, no, I love Tyrese. Yes. But if you actually go back and read the comics and see what potential he had that was completely wasted in the show, you'll be like, oh, wow, they really didn't. And again, and let me redirect some of my aggression towards Daryl for the Daryl fans out there. Now that I'm clear-headed, I like Daryl. This season, I like Daryl more than I've liked him pretty much since like maybe season 4 or 5. Like the last 2 seasons, I've not really cared much at all for Daryl. This season, I really like Daryl. In fact, I dare say I like Daryl enough that I feel like, you know, I know that they're not intentionally doing this, and I know that they are splitting up roles. But I mean, Daryl seems to kind of getting some of the Rick focus of the camera. You know what I mean? Kind of lead man status in a way, and I'm okay with that. This season, I like Daryl. I feel like
an interesting arc,
right?
Sure.
They're back to writing him as more than Rick's right hand that grunts and takes other people's story arcs. But that's been my problem with Daryl all along in this show. I love Norman Reedus, man. You watch the behind the scenes stuff. He seems like the nicest guy. He's very like generous towards his fans and so I love Norman Reedus, but you know, Daryl gets a lot of people's story arcs. They said Tyrese didn't get a good story arc because they had to give that right hand man status to Daryl, and there's been other characters they've had to do that with, and so that was my frustration with Daryl. But no, I don't want Daryl to die this season. I still would have been okay with Aaron dying instead of Jesus, but Aaron does have Gracie back there. I know he's got a lot going on, but I still would have loved to have seen them take this opportunity to talk Thomas Paine into wanting to stay, because they're going to really utilize his character. But with that said, if you go back and listen, I did say yesterday that I thought the whole Whisperer part was awesome.
Oh yeah, visually stunning, creepy. It was great.
I was infuriated that Jesus died, but if you listen, I said straight up that I thought they did a great job with it, though. I mean, when that Whisperer dodged, I mean, I kind of saw that coming, just because we knew the Whisperers were there. But even though, it still caught me off guard. And I'm like, oh, my God. And it was great. I mean, I loved how they really did. It was probably one of the creepiest episodes of The Walking Dead they've ever done. I loved the fog. I loved the setting. I loved just the sheer terror that Eugene had.
Yeah. My only gripe is there wasn't enough of it. I think
the bulk of the episode should have been that.
Yeah, three-fourths of the episode should have happened at night, you know.
Yeah, I don't really care to see Henry out partying with those kids and
nor
stuff.
Did I.
I mean, I get what they're trying to show you. That's the thing, man. I write some, and I get that they're trying to build Henry's character. Completely understand that, but we're just not really into. I'm not really into the teenage angst type thing. You know what I mean? He got to the hilltop. He made a mistake. Now he's going to work uber hard to try and better himself and become a character that we'll love. But
man, he's just such an annoying character. I don't think I'd like the actor in any role.
I was going to say, is it the character for you, or is it more the actor?
It's both. I don't like it either way. I didn't like his little brother playing him, you know, as a kid. Nah. I'm sorry. It's just not me.
And plus, I got a lot going on in my personal life that I think I took out on this episode. A lot. I mean, I told you that my grandmother passed away, but it's a lot more than that.
You gotta, yeah.
JP knows what's going on.
I'm going through some changes right now, but not quite as dire.
Right.
No, maybe dire is not the right word, but
depends on how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah. So looking back at this episode, it was a good episode. My frustration is not necessarily with this. And Jesus did go out in a badass way. I mean, he brought in these new great villains who and as far as the Whisperers go, man, I'm digging the way they're doing them. I love the horror theme. I love how creepy they're making them. Was it just me, though, when all the Whisperers came running out with that knives? Did you expect like a Power Rangers fight scene right there?
Oh, that would have been great.
Don't you remember like in the 90s, you know, all the fight scenes, the bad guys, like the Ninja Turtles, the foot soldiers all just come running like
and then do a
out of one area, you know, they're all running and they got their knives. They're like, and they all get around and it's just like, you know, but I really dig the Whisperers so far, man. And that first look at Beta, wow. Looks like he is whooping Daryl's ass.
Yeah, man. We need to do just like a trailer review just for this, you know, this
and that was
the season coming up.
And a lot of people pointed out, and I hope they're right. You know, my biggest beef is I'm like, dude, one thing, and I get that they're not going to follow the comics. They have not followed the comics to the letter on everything, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I enjoy twists and turns, but there are some key parts of the comics that made us love it, and you need to try to figure out how to put them into the show, at least in some way.
Points that need to remain fixed.
I need to see Negan and Beta throw down.
Absolutely.
We didn't get to see Jesus and Beta throw down. Jesus and Beta's fight was badass and was a great example of why we love Jesus. I better get to see, and what I was worried about was, again, I've said this, and you can find several points in the show where they've given Daryl these comic book character story arcs. And like Abraham was much more of Rick's right-hand man in the comics, but he didn't really get as much of that in the show, which I still loved what we got of Abraham, so I'm not going to complain too bad on that. But, you know, they've sidelined a lot of really good characters so that Daryl could have his you know, bromance time. And what I'm really hoping is that fight scene we see is, you know, the beginning, and then Negan will eventually get to brawl with Beta, because that whole Negan and the Whisperers part is amazing. Like, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole Whisperer saga.
Yeah, and that's such a huge part of Negan's redemption, you know, the part he plays in the Whisperer War. So, yeah, they can't take that out. If they do, they might as well just, you know, write Negan off, too.
I mean, when Negan meets Beta and the Whisperers, I just was reading that last night. It's amazing. And to think of Jeffrey Dean Morgan reading these lines, I really want to see it. So I really am hoping for, and I'm okay with Daryl being kind of Rick's stand-in for the whole, you know, basically, I thought it was going to be Carol versus Alpha, which would be awesome. Two badass females. You know, Carol kind of meeting her match in a way. You know, we know Alpha's deceitful, as Carol can be. Like, you know, Alpha is somewhat of a badass, but it's not so much that she's upright going to beat your ass as it is that she's just slick. You know, she'll you'll put your guard down and lots of people die. And then Carol's the same way. So it would be really cool to watch two, you know, not only female leads, but two very strategic, strong people going at it. I mean, Carol would somewhat meet her match, especially if it plays out similar to how it does in the comics with Rick. You know, that could break Carol. So it would just be interesting to see. But I'm okay with Daryl taking Rick's part, because it seems like Daryl, commenters have pointed out that, you know, Daryl and Henry are getting close. And it's going to be basically Daryl. And we see Daryl talking to who I'm thinking is Lydia. Did you see that in the trailer?
In the cell?
Because that's kind of like the talk that Lydia had with like Carl in the comics. In the comics, Lydia has this long talk with Carl, and she's kind of locked up and been taken prisoner about, you know, we're animals and, you know, we're blah, 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 blah. And actually, in the context of that conversation, her talking to Daryl, it fits perfectly. Even more so than Carl in the comics, because Daryl lives out in the woods. He's much more of a more animalistic than anyone else in the group. So I'm excited. I'm optimistic.
I'm guessing they might have even like seen Daryl out there and was just like, look, he's basically living the same way we are. So, you know, we're not going to mess with him. But
they're very territorial. You know, that's the thing about the Whispers. They're very territorial. And like you said, maybe they saw Daryl and they were like, he's not bothering anybody. He's just surviving. He's not a threat to us. We're going to let him go. But one thing I'll give him credit for, too, is some of the detail. Okay, so slight comic spoilers, but not, I mean, this isn't a big deal. But I didn't even realize when it happened. But when Jesus gets stabbed in the episode, and he said, and the Whisperer tells him, "You are where you do not belong." Mm-hmm. That's actually pretty detailed, because in the comics, when Jesus first encounters the Whisperers, that's what one of the Whisperers tells him, is you are where you do not belong. The only difference was Jesus didn't get stabbed. Jesus proceeded to whoop the shit out of all of the Whisperers in badass Jesus fashion. I mean, he was kung fu kicking and slinging and slicing. It was awesome. So it sucks we didn't get to see that, but I do applaud them for the kind of attention to detail from like the comics. And, you know, Marcos it was Marcos and another guy that first heard the Whisperers, two kind of low characters. It wasn't Eugene and Rosita. And in the comic, Marcos leaves the other guy in a barn, just leaves him for dead. And then they have to go back, Jesus and some other people, to try to get him. So, I mean, there were some comic parallels there that I can appreciate.
Yeah, and Aaron it could end up turning into like a classic sort of samurai story arc. The sensei dies, and
that's what I'm hoping.
The pupil goes out for vengeance. Not quite ready, but he has to be ready.
Yeah.
And all this kind of stuff.
One of our listeners commented and actually said that they looked at it as more of like a passing the torch type thing. Like now Aaron's going to be badass kung fu kicking. So I go back and I still am very frustrated with their treatment of Jesus and that character. And I don't change that. I think that Jesus is one of the most underutilized characters in The Walking Dead. And it might be because I'm partial to Jesus, because that's my favorite character from the comics. I've been saying that, I think, since we started podcasting, I think. And Negan's one of my all-time favorite comic book characters, but in the Walking Dead world, Jesus is my favorite. And I just hate that we didn't get to see, and I know they can't do everything from the comics. Andrew Lincoln's got to have his screen time. They're paying Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus a crap ton of money, so I get they want to use them as much as they can. But, I mean, we could have used a little more Jesus, man.
Yeah,
can't
totally
we all?
Underutilized. We're gonna go there, but no. Look, like I said, I think he got the Tyrese treatment. They took a great character. I mean, yeah, Tyrese wasn't a bad character, and he definitely got his screen time. But I want a comic book Tyrese. I want to see him get his
comic book Tyrese wants
he
wants such a gentle giant. I mean, in fact, he like that whole Rick and Tyrese fight scene in the show.
Rick, was
way different in the comics. Man, Rick and Daryl didn't kind of team up and beat the crap out of Tyrese. Tyrese pretty much had to be stopped from killing Rick, which I don't know if they necessarily stopped him, but he beat Rick half to death. I mean, and then we watched Tyrese strangle someone. I mean, Tyrese in the comic was just quite a bit different than Tyrese, from the show. But with that said, I like show Tyrese, and I was very sad to see him go. But I agree, like they definitely had some missed opportunities there with him being Rick's right-hand man. That would have been a cool team up. But, the Daryl fans are stoked. And like I said, I was a Daryl. I mean, now I am a Daryl fan. I was really into Daryl seasons 1 through, because I was just stoked that I was like, that's the dude from the Boondock Saints when season 1 came out. And I liked him in season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4. I think somewhere in season 5, he just kind of got to be the, I think, you know what I mean? Like he just was kind of Rick's right-hand grunting man.
Are you implying he was
he could be. Have you ever seen Daryl take a shit?
Now that you mention it.
We've seen Morgan take a dump on Fear the Walking Dead, but we've not seen. I mean, Daryl could be. That could explain a lot of Daryl's lack of talking and constipation.
Yeah, that would explain grunting. All the grunting. Just
Rick's like,
yeah, Rick.
Rick's like, we got to stop the big gun. Are you agreeing, or do you have to go to the bathroom?
I wish I could.
But yeah, so I wanted to go back and kind of retouch on this episode because I didn't hate it as much as it sounded like I hated it. I like the episode itself. I'm with JP. I could have done with a little less Henry story, but if they were going to take out Jesus, they did it in a very badass way, and I love the way the Whispers are being portrayed. So there you go.
This might be the best villain portrayal of the whole series.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan is awesome, but of course we've had our issues where we're like, man, we just wish I just wish they would have bulked him up a little bit, because like going back and reading the comics, like what I started reading yesterday was the end of the All Out War saga, and then like there, Negan is just such a big guy, and he's so imposing and just intimidating to everyone around him. But Jeffrey Dean Morgan's personality really does make up for that, though. Yeah. I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan does a great job of playing like a real life bully, and you don't have to be big to be intimidating. I know that. But what I'm saying is, he does a great job of making up for not being big. So I can deal with it. But as far as comic to screen portrayals, the Whisperers could be the best so far.
It could be. I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan does shine in that role. I mean, at times he's almost seemed a little cartoony, just with
a little over animated,
his lip, sucking or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think, there's definitely a comedic aspect,
and his leaning back. But there's one thing I will give to him. Like people will sometimes, give like him or like John Bernthal, slack. Like John Bernthal, Shane would always rub his head, and people, and it's like John Bernthal was, that's what John Bernthal said. He's like, people have tics, and that's one I gave to Shane. It's just he does that when he's frustrated or fed up. Jeffrey Dean Morgan leans back a lot when he talks. Right. It's just some people do have different mannerisms and tics that they do, and they might not even realize they're doing. But I think the Whisperers could be one of the best comic to screen portrayals yet. I am so stoked for Beta, man. Oh my gosh, just that scene of him standing with the behind the curtains or whatever. That was creepy as hell.
It was to me, just being a Star Trek fan, he looked a lot like a Klingon, had that super high forehead and, the hair parted weird. So
it's like what Negan tells him in the comic when they meet. Negan's like, oh, what are you, Mr. Cool Guy? What are you too cool to wear the whole skin suit? You just, I'm going to wear half a mask. I don't need all, and that's, again, one of the reasons why Negan has to meet Beta and the Whisperers. I will take back my rating, and I will take back my things I said about Angela, which I didn't insult Angela King. I just said she let me down on this episode. But keep in mind, 7 other episodes I've said she's done phenomenal. I mean, I really don't think we could have been nicer about Angela King this season. We've said nothing but praises, but I don't think it's her fault. I think this stems from Gimple era BS writing. I mean, like, Gimple had every opportunity to utilize Jesus. So Tom Payne's frustrations with the role come from Gimple.
Right. It does seem when they're at odds with a certain actor, like they kind of screw, give them the shaft and with the writing and how they take them out. So.
Yeah, I really.
It almost feels like there's a mutiny with the cast, I mean,
oh yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, a show this big and this loved, and you got people wanting to leave it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I mean, a character here or there is one thing, but when you got people that are just fed up with their roles, I mean,
when your lead, leaves, that's a pretty big deal.
Yep. And I don't care what they say. I know he wanted to spend time with his family. I still feel a large part of Andrew Lincoln leaving is because he felt like his character just had no drive now.
Yeah, man, he didn't want to go down with the ship. That's what it comes down to. I mean, I've given him a lot of flack for leaving, and I still will. But I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't want to go down with the ship. And
at least we got the movies coming out. Yeah, I am really excited about those.
As am I.
I'm hoping they'll do a Negan backstory. That little movie, because they did that with the comics. They did it in the preview magazines, and they released it with Here's Negan. Is it Here's Negan or Here Comes Negan?
I think it's Here's Negan.
I think that's it. I always just want to say Here Comes Negan for some reason, but it's Here's Negan. I've got it, and that's a really good read. Have you read it yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a really good read. His backstory. Robert Kirkman did a great job of explaining why Negan is kind of the way he is. He gets tight with a lot of people, and then people just keep dying because they won't listen to what he says. So it's just like, hey, I'm going to force you to stay alive.
Right.
You've got to do, and it really does do a great job of explaining why Negan thinks and acts the way that he does, why he feels like he's the savior. Because in his world, he's been the survivor. He survives, and people don't survive because they won't listen to him. So he's like, hey, if I have to kill one of you. And that's something else I missed, man, was like I know they talked a little in the show, but man, Negan and Rick's talks in the comics were so good. There's even a scene, and this is a slight comic spoiler, but not nothing huge. But there's a scene that we'll never get that I love, and I know you loved it because I think you love that comic cover of Negan's hand on Rick's shoulder when he's sitting down.
Yeah,
when Rick's facing a lot of backlash over the Whisperers. His people are not happy with him and the way he's handling it, and he doesn't know what to do, and he goes to good old Negan for advice. And I love that whole conversation they have, with Negan and Rick. And then even when they get back behind Rick, it flashes to a panel of Negan in his jail cell, and Negan's like, "That a boy." Mm-hmm. I love it. I hate that we're not going to get that because, man, I really encourage you, man. If you've never read the comics, please go read them. I know plenty of people that don't read comics, but they have read The Walking Dead. It's phenomenal, man. I mean, just like the show, just like the show, there are characters they kill, and you're like, oh, what the hell? And Robert Kirkman has regrets, but it's such a good read, man.
Yeah, really good. You know what I would like? Say after they write Negan off, or even after the show ends, do kind of like what Breaking Bad did with Better Call Saul. Just have like a prequel series all about Negan's
I'd love to see that. That'd be great. If we don't get the movie.
Yeah, either way.
For a while there, man, I'm telling you, AMC was kind of like Oprah with the cars. AMC's like, they're talking about a Daryl and Carol movie and a Negan movie. It's like, you get a movie.
Yeah.
You get a movie. Everyone gets a movie. Oh, man, as long as they don't give one to, like, Beth, I'd be all right. I don't want a backstory on Beth.
No.
Or Andrea. I'm sure you'd love to see that.
That would be all right.
But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of retouch on that now that I've got to watch it 3 times, and I mean, it is a great episode. I still hate that Jesus had to die, and more so, it's not so much that he died as the fact that he died without getting to be as awesome as he could be. I just feel like that's a terrible mistake on the writing, which again is not really Angela King's fault. She's just kind of been handed something and has to. Yeah. And what she's been handed, I think she's done a wonderful job. This show really, I will give it credit. It does kind of take you back to that season 1 kind of what the hell? Like you have that wonder of like, what the hell is that? Why is this happening? And, just kind of each episode has its own like punch to the gut. So, I applaud Angela King. I think she's done a good job. I'm just not happy that we didn't get Badass Jesus. I mean, keep in mind, people that know me the most, people that really know me, when we're like, who would you be in The Walking Dead? Oh, this guy would be Glenn, or this person would be Abraham. Everyone that I know has always been like, you'd be Jesus. You used to do all the flips and the, martial arts and stuff. You'd definitely be Jesus because, I don't know if I could still do it as well now, but, at one time I used to be very flexible. Could do some crazy stuff on my legs. So
hey, we'll start doing some DDP yoga, man. Get you right back into it.
I had DDP yoga. You talking about the wrestler?
Yeah.
My buddy, one of the guys that used to work at this station, seriously ordered that whole series.
They say it's incredible.
He was really digging it.
Yeah, DDP was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and man, it's changing lives.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it.
Got Jake the Snake Roberts off crack cocaine.
So. But yeah, so Jesus was my guy. Jesus was my homeboy.
Well, there you go.
But so I just hated to see him leave. So I was a little frustrated and angry, and I probably let a little personal life slip in there, and I needed something to vent my frustrations to. But so yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed the episode, and man, when the moment that whisperer ducks, it really does just hit you in the gut. By the time and I like the way they did that, because my sister was trying to tell me, she's like, no, Jesus is martial art. He's too quick. I'm like, don't matter how trained you are. Trust me, you can still be caught off guard. You know what I mean? That's how you take out someone that's a better fighter than you, is you have to catch them off guard. And it's,
especially with a totally unperceived threat.
Right.
I mean,
Jesus had no clue that, this zombie that he, and you see how lax he was. He's just like slices one, wasn't even really half looking at it, just kind of was going to slice it on his way back to the gate, and then it ducks, and it very, very cleverly maneuvers right behind him. That's the thing, too. It didn't duck, and then they started fighting. Like, this thing ducked, swooped right behind him, and stabbed him in the back. I mean, it really was done very, very well. So, kudos to the choreography. I was reading an article with Tom saying that, like, they kept calling him back. Like, one day they called him back to set to literally just lay there in a pile of blood while Aaron cried over top of him. Yeah. He's like, damn it, let me be dead.
Right.
But so I have, I really, though, overall, I'm going to give this whole season thus far a 4.5. Like, I really have enjoyed this season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, somewhere between a 4 and a 5, most definitely.
Like, from front to back, man. Like, I'll probably, I will at some point go back and rewatch this whole season. I really can't say enough good things. Like we said when we podcast, some people used to fuss because we talk to nothing but good stuff. There are times, as you see from yesterday, where we're not going to be happy with something. And, sometimes we're going to vent.
My only gripe's been with Henry. That's the only sour point in the season.
You don't like how underused Jesus was. Don't lie.
No. I totally think Jesus got the shaft as far as, his portrayal and the writing and everything.
Yeah, so let's hope, though. Angela Kang's at the wheel. She's doing a great job. Let's hope that going forward we can. And like I said, she's made me like Daryl again. I mean, I never hated Daryl. I just had gotten to the point where I was like, last 2 seasons, it's like, look, man, Daryl, I'm over. Like,
I mean, bad writing can kill the best character, the best story.
But now I'm liking Daryl. I'm and then him going off into the woods by himself seems totally appropriate. Daryl is a loner. Rick was kind of the one that tamed the beast in a way. Rick was Rick and Carol pretty much were like 2 of the only people that could really rein him in and, give him something to get behind, Beth for some reason. Not Angela King's best work, because I hear that she wrote those episodes with Beth and Daryl. But aside from that, this is definitely her best work. And I mean, who knows if she can, what she's doing with this show? Who knows what the future holds for Angela King? I mean, she's taking a show that a lot of people were saying has gotten stale and really breathed new life into it. I know a lot of people who had said they were almost done with the show, but have come back and been like, dude, I love this season.
Yeah.
But I did get several texts. I did get several WTF texts on Sunday night when Jesus died, which I'm glad, by the way, I was watching it when people were texting me.
Like I said, I found out Jesus was going to die the night of, so I watched it in the morning, and it was what it was.
But yeah, lots on the way. And one thing someone pointed out, which is very true, Father Gabriel's getting a lot of screen time. So I feel like Something bad's on the way for everybody's favorite one-eyed preacher.
Could be a bad omen. We'll see.
But we will see. Don't forget, if we don't talk to you between now and then, Thursday we'll have our Mail Call podcast. If you have any questions for us, go to last week's. I think it was number 4. And leave a comment there with, especially like hashtag mail call. But if it's in that video, but if you leave it in another video, just try to hashtag it mail call, and we'll try to gather them all up. And remember, please try your best to either one question or or a question or two in one comment, because we want to try to get to as many people's as we can.
That's the goal. Everyone needs to be heard.
It breaks our heart to hear y'all didn't answer my question last podcast, and we're like, man, we really, really didn't mean to skip it. We try our best to get as many as we can, because the listeners are the reason why we keep doing this. Yeah. It's freaking awesome.
And even the ones it gets, the more selective we're going to have to be.
Yeah. Even the ones that were like ragging on me in the comments yesterday, I still love them. I got called a cunt by somebody, and I still love you, madam.
Why is that a bad thing? That's the gateway of all human life. Well, except for the C-section, I guess. Anyway.
You had so many things I want to throw back at that, but I'm just going to hold them inside. But yeah, so even to the people that hated it, we still love the comments. And kudos to people who can respectfully disagree, man. I've all my life said that nothing gives me more respect for someone than someone who can disagree with you, but do it in a totally respectful way. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be like, F you, you cunt. Like, man, but then there were so many people that were like, look, love your podcast, but I disagree, I think. And then they had some very valid points. Like, that's how we learn from each other is, constructive criticism.
I think people who get really nasty on the internet, man, they're probably the most polite people in the world in real life. And that's like
that's where they vent.
Their vice. Yeah, they go to the internet to just say all the nasty stuff they can't say in real life.
It's like you're a stupid douchebag, but that person is like a customer service rep for like someone. When you call them, they're like, thank you for calling Verizon, we appreciate your business so much.
It's kind of like like someone who's super sexually frustrated and goes home and watches the nastiest stank porn you've ever seen in your life, people getting doo-dooed on and all this kind of stuff.
JP,
because their wife doesn't let them touch their butt at all, so they're like, I'm going to the extreme, baby. Yeah, and it goes in a cup sometimes, and then they pour it on the head, and all kinds of stuff.
I did, actually, you know what? I did read. I was a channel called Bright Side, I think is the name of the channel. Yeah. I was just YouTube surfing last night, or yesterday evening, and I found this thing. It was like 10 psychological facts, which some of them didn't necessarily seem like facts more than opinions, but there was one that said people who get extremely angry over little or irrational things need love. So, let us love you. What the hell was that, JP? Are you turning into a walker over there?
Oh, gosh, that might be it.
Let me get my pocket knife out. What the hell, dude? Are you about to? Is a chest burster about to come out?
I don't know what's going on. That was like an internal eruption.
Man,
God in heaven!
Thank God it was through that end. But yeah, so we will see you Thursday. If you made it this far in the video, obviously, and hopefully you don't hate us too bad, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Also, when you do that, if you click the little bell beside the subscribe button, it'll send you a little notification whenever we post, because we do have several things that are concrete, but we are kind of sporadic. You never know. In the next day or two, you might have another Telltale Walking Dead game.
You sure might.
Going through. Also, Walking Dead What Ifs. Let's get that started, man. It would be wonderful if you could put those in the mail call, but if you don't feel like going to that video, put them in this video. We really want to start. Maybe Mondays we'll do Walking Dead What Ifs. That'll be a good way to start the week.
Yeah.
So, what if Andrea was still alive? How would she fit into the story? Or what if Dale never died? How would, you know what I mean? Like things like that. Or what if Shane were still alive? How would he handle the Negan thing? Things like that. Like, put that in the comment section. We love to discuss. We love your input. And we love you.
Yeah, we're going to create our own alternate timelines.
Damn right. It's
going to be a beautiful thing.
Damn right. So, until we meet again, I'm Justin.
And I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.
Yeah, we are.